Well, everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer. Welcome to the Development Help Podcast. It's the movie club, and we're back at it again this month. And we're all back at it again, the six of us, to talk about The Place Beyond the Pines, and starring Ryan Gosling, Bradley Cooper, Ava Mendes, and collection of some young talent and some surprising other people that I'm like, oh crap, Mahershala Ali was in this movie. But for those who haven't tuned in before, we all get started by giving our general thoughts, and then we'll dive in, and you'll never know where we go. So let's get things started talking about the film. So, Joe, what were your general thoughts on Place Beyond the Pines?
So I watched it last night. Prior to me watching it, I saw the trailer. And at first, I was thinking about that movie with Chris Pine and Jeff Bridges, where they're bank robbers and Jeff Bridges. That's at least the vibe I got from the trailer. Oh. But then when I saw the movie, it was completely different. And I appreciated that. To me, I kind of wish more trailers would be giving you the vibe of what the movie is without telling you anything as far as what the movie is about. When watching the movie, I thought it was a great case study, a great concept on what it means to be good and what it means to be evil, and really play in onto the idea of nature versus nurture. And another thing, I think we'll probably talk more about it when we, get into the full deep dive. Everybody's perception of this movie might be different from how I perceive certain things. Because like the first thing I noticed when people would talk about the movie is their perception of Ryan Gosling's character. I won't go into spoilers now, since I'm sure we'll probably go into the deep dive of it. Whereas I feel like my take on that character might differ from other people's characters, and I'd be very interested to see what other people have to say about it. Otherwise, yeah, I actually think it's a great movie. Dramatic irony plays a really big role in it, and even the idea of what it means to be following in someone's footsteps, so to say, the good of following someone's footsteps and the bad of following in someone's footsteps.
Well, how dare you, Joe, for having differing opinions. And also in 2026, we definitely will be doing Hell or High Water. I promise you.
That's the title just kept slipping me.
Alex, what were your general thoughts? Also, Joe, was this your first time watching?
This was my first time watching the movie, yes.
Okay. Alex, and then how many times have you seen this?
This is probably the fifth or sixth time that I've seen it. This is one of my favorite movies that's been released in the last 10 years, 10, 15 years. And so obviously Drive had come out the year before. And, when I saw, Gosling in the trailer, the whole bank heist thing was like, oh shit, this is going to be cool. But I just, there's a very real element to this movie, like a brutally honest element that I think about American life in this film that, Drive kind of maybe washes over a little bit. Drive is more of like it's like a crime thriller, neon napkin. And so it's awesome, but this is not Drive, and I think that you figure that out somewhere in like the 15-minute mark. You go, oh, this is not going to be Drive. And I just, yeah, it's one of my favorite films. We probably will talk a little bit about pacing. I think there are some dips, but I think that the mystique of the Gosling character carries through. I think Bradley Cooper is really underrated. I think he actually deserves a lot of credit for being able to hold his own after that first section of the film. And I just think the acting is really good, and the music is really good, and the characters are drawn just incredibly real. And I love this movie.
There you go. I figured, Alex, you were probably the one who's seen this the most at this point. So how about you, Vinny?
Well, this was my first time seeing it. And because this was the first, I mean, I know Derek Cianfrance hasn't made too many movies, but like this is the first one I saw from him, and um and after watching this, I watched Blue Valentine for the first time, and you know, I'm not gonna talk about Blue Valentine, but I'm just saying, like, just in general, between those two movies, I do think he's I do think he's a better director than he is a screen than he is. I mean, he's not a bad screenwriter by any means, but I'm just I'll go into more details, but I do think he's a better director than a screenwriter. Like with for Place Beyond the Pines, I thought it had a great first two thirds, but then I'm glad Alex mentioned the pacing, because I felt like the last third of it really didn't live up to like what came before. But I'll go into more detail as we go further.
I think that might be a common thing. I know that's definitely how I felt the first time I watched it. How about you, Matt?
I really like this movie. This is the second time that I saw it. The first time I saw it was in college. I think so. Aside from what Joe was talking about with like the legacy and stuff like that, that's like a really big thing. Like you stepping into the shoes of like somebody that came before you, in good ways and bad. I think also, aside from that, I think also like it's a really interesting movie to, I guess, to discuss about, I guess, like what class that you are born into, and then kind of how like that class can kind of like shield you from like consequences, or how you can kind of find yourself in a rut that's hard to get out of generationally. Like I think I think that's kind of interesting. Also, I thought by the end of the movie, like I don't think anybody like changed. And I don't mean that in the sense where it's kind of like the arcs are crappy, but instead it's kind of like a sad choice that I guess like the screenwriters kind of like injected, because you have Bradley Cooper and his son. I think that he's going to continue to put his job before like his relationship with his son. I think DeHaan, I don't know how you pronounce it. Thank you. Yeah, like I don't think that he is going to have like the easiest time of it. I think that he's going to be basically exactly like his father, or at least in terms of kind of like, I don't know, like it takes a lot of like the coolness and mystique out of like this wandering kind of like person, and it's like, oh wait, now like this person, like the reason why like they can't put down roots is because that there's like an emotional thing that's kind of like barring them from doing that, it seems like. And then like definitely like his mom, like DeHaan's like mom, like she's also probably kind of like devastated. I can't even imagine like not only your 17-year-old kid leaving the house, but then randomly sending you a picture of you and your old fling and him when he was young. Like I don't know, like this, like it's just an interesting movie. I don't think it's, for me, it isn't like very hopeful. I mean, I could be definitely projecting a bunch of like random stuff. I was sleepy when I was watching it, so maybe maybe I wasn't in like the most optimistic mindset. I don't know. Maybe I should watch it again. It was like, I don't know, whatever. But I still like it a lot. Like I like a lot. I remember like when it came out, I remember thinking like, damn, like is this gonna get like a Golden Globe love? But it didn't. And I was like pissed off by that. I hate when that happens. But still, dope movie. I like it.
How about you, Jim?
First time watching this movie. I know it had been on my radar for a long time. I think Alex had told me to watch it a whole bunch of times. So I took a bunch of notes. Big one is it's not what I expected. And props to the marketing around this movie that they didn't spoil, what happens. I thought this movie was going to be about Ryan Gosling and Ava Rowe. All the way through, and it's not. It's like somebody just said, it's like in thirds. Vinnie said, I think, like this is a movie in definite 3 parts, right? A lot to think about. What a cast! Like 3 of the most beautiful people that you could think of off the top of your head in Hollywood? 3 different races, like they're front and center in this film.
And 2 of them got married in real life.
Wait, who did?
Ryan Gosling and Eva Mendes.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
I didn't even know. I had no idea.
She really stopped acting, but she's having Ryan Gosling's babies. They're going to be some beautiful people someday. But continue, Jim.
Well, hopefully they're raised. I don't know. That whole generational thing is what kind of latched on to me. It's kind of what's stuck with me. Like Matt said, I think we can come back to what everybody has said so far and have a good discussion. But like the sins of the fathers theme kind of resonated with me. And it does seem like the sons are, regardless of the intentions of the fathers, the struggles just seem to keep happening, and they seem to find the same problems, or in the case of Bradley Cooper's son, maybe different problems, throughout. The pursuit scenes I thought were really intense. And I also thought that like the character from Drive with the scorpion jacket could have just jumped straight into this movie. That could be the same guy, for all we know. And then I have some thoughts about what The Place Beyond the Pines actually is, but I can wait for later.
And then this was my second time watching this. The first time I watched it was at a time in my life I didn't go to the movies a whole lot, but I would buy movies on DVD when they came out that I was interested in. And I bought this when it first came out on DVD, and I watched it. I'm like, I don't know. And this was 10 years ago. So 21-year-old Shane, not all of it clicked as much as I was hoping for. And, some of that could be expectations because, this felt like watching the trailers and stuff like that. It could have been Drive. It could have been more of like an action movie, but it's not at all. They do have chases, and they're really well shot and intense chases, very visceral. But it's the kind of thing where I feel like each of these stories, each of these characters has something in them that's important to say. And I was watching this half dead after I got my COVID and flu vaccines the same night. And then I watched this the next day when I was dead on the couch. But like
drool coming out of your mouth? Drool coming out of your mouth?
No, but I was shaking. Like the whole entire 2 hours and 20 minutes of the movie on the couch. But the thing is, it's like, hey, I was a captive audience. I still feel like the third act is weaker than the other 2 acts, but I do feel like it has really big importance narratively and thematically pulling this all together, because it is about that generational piece to it. And if you didn't have the third act of the movie, you wouldn't be seeing generations. Like that wouldn't be pulling it together. But you watch Ryan Gosling's part, that first act, and him dealing with, like the classism, the fact that so many people that are impoverished wind up being stuck in these cycles, and you see that, and he keeps going back to the same well, because what else can he do, kind of thing. And it's something that he can do. And then the second part I thought was very interesting, and like even just that as its own little film, with its indictment of like the police force and corruption and stuff like that. Honestly, I think that might be my favorite part of this movie the second time that I watched this. I just love that like haunting dynamic of rest in peace Ray Liotta. But like that one scene where they go into Eva Mendes's house, that's one of the most that's like quintessential bad cop shit in a movie, and it's just absolutely terrible. It's that taking advantage of that power dynamic, and you just know that you can do it, and nobody's going to stop you from doing it unless one of your own stops you from doing it. And then you do have that third part. And also, shout out to Emery Cohen, who I think I've seen him in 3 movies, and they're completely different performances. And because like he's in Brooklyn, He's Tony, the young silent Italian kid that falls in love with Saoirse Ronan. I'm like, wait a minute. But he gives it's really interesting seeing that dynamic of him versus Dane DeHaan's character versus who their fathers are. Because, like, Emmerich Cohen's a little shit. He just seems like he would be a criminal kind of thing. But you know what? He's a spoiled cop's kid, right? Politician's kid kind of thing. And I think there's so many layers to this film that this is a 2 hour and 20-minute film. There's a lot going on here. I do agree that there might be some pacing issues at times, but there's just so many layers to human, like very relatable and understandable and poignant human conditions in this film that I do feel like you need to watch this when you're a little bit more mature, because I don't think 21-year-old Shane really appreciated this enough. And then watching it 10 years later as somebody who's not a 21-year-old, I felt like it was a very different experience for me. But I guess this might be an interesting thing to kind of break up into pieces, because they conveniently set this up into 3 pieces for us. So what are some of the big takeaways you all felt about that Ryan Gosling section, that first third of the film?
I really liked the and this is an instance where like Derek Cianfrance say, like, he really does prove himself to be a good director, and like how he does really step up from Blue Valentine. Just at the climax of Ryan Gosling's story arc, you have that really like gritty chase scene from the inside of Bradley Cooper's cop car, through town, and then through the cemetery, while Ryan Gosling is on his motorbike. And from a technical standpoint, it's just a really like impressively shot chase sequence.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah, no, that chase sequence is wonderful. And everything with Gosling on the bike is just like when he's you use the word visceral, Shane, when he's robbing the bank, he's actually in there. And then just the idea of him getting away and like just driving into a truck, this black hole of a truck, and then the thing comes down, and there's something, it's very gritty and it's visceral, but there's also this kind of mystique. It's almost, you almost kind of fantasize about, oh wow, that's kind of a badass way to rob a bank.
And then the consequences come. And
sure, but in the moment it's pretty badass, and so that's that whole Gosling section. I feel like he really is, whether it's intentional or not, bringing in that mystique that was left over from the Drive character. And I mean, when they're racing the bikes in the circle like that, I really do believe it. And that mystique, it's funny because Gosling's only in, maybe, was it 45 minutes, something like that,
give or take.
Yeah.
But his character just, reverberates throughout the rest of the movie. And he's violent.
52 minutes and 30 seconds.
52 minutes and 30 seconds.
Because I wrote in all caps, "Oh shit," in my notes.
Which, Alex, I think you bring up an interesting point, because Ryan Gosling's such an interesting actor and a weird human being. Like, if you see him like just doing regular interviews and stuff, he's a weird dude. But like, I think he does a couple of different kinds of performances. He does this because he does it in Drive. He does it Only God Forgives. He does it in Place Beyond the Pines. It's like this very stoic, intense, kind of quiet, kind of like just figure. He does weird and quirky, like Lars and the Real Girl, and just movie. like The Nice Guys, where he's just, oh my God, him and Russell Crowe in that movie together. I can't. I need more.
We need a sequel to that. It's been 6 years.
Come on. people waste money in Hollywood all the time. Waste more money making that. We'll go see it.
Yeah.
And then he does like that cocky asshole, like he does in like Crazy Stupid Love, the whole thing. He's like, hey,
Right.
what are you in New Balance? Were you in a fraternity? And like that and The Big Short. And he does each of those characters so well. I think it's just very interesting. Like he has these very specific, like there's certain actors, like Jeff Bridges has like 3 Jeff Bridges he plays interchangeably in movies, and they're all great. So, but I think it's a really interesting performance. And Jim definitely had an oh shit moment too when I watched this for the first time 10 years ago. Point. And that's so frustrating, that moment, because it's like everything you do wrong in those kinds of situations, and also why police aren't shown how to de-escalate. And it's a tricky situation to deal with in that moment. And it, like you said, Alex, that just reverberates through the whole entire film, because you never feel Ryan Gosling fully gone out of it.
Right.
Because Bradley Cooper feels haunted through the whole entire second part of this film because of that incident. And then, you know, it's his son trying to find out who his dad is throughout that whole entire third part of the film.
I was watching a video analysis about it afterwards, and I thought it was very interesting that they pointed out that there's no use of flashbacks. There's no use of voiceover. Like when he's gone, he's gone. Whatever pictures it's just pictures. So essentially, Bradley Cooper really never gets to know who he is. There's no Hollywood cliche in that aspect, and I appreciate it because it really shows how there's consequence. There's this linear, things are falling in place, and sometimes you can't just go back and fix things. You just have to figure out, what am I going to do moving forward, you know? I hope you don't mind me going back on Ryan Gosling's character. This is the thing that I think, you know, kind of bothered me about the perception of the character based on what I was reading about it afterwards. I don't think he's a good guy. Let me just make it perfectly clear. I do not believe Ryan Gosling's character, Luke, is a good person. I believe there's aspects where his heart can be in the right place at times and when he wants to do something good. But it's like he's constantly making really bad choices. You know, like
he's impulsive.
He's impulsive. Like he's robbing a bank. That's his solution to taking care of a son that, for the most part, seems like even Mendez's character doesn't want him to take care of. He's like, I got Kofi, I got Mahershala Ali helping me take care of the son. We really don't. We have it all figured out. He's like, nah, I'm gonna figure out something. And he's robbing banks. He almost murders Mahershala Ali. Like, I felt so bad for him. That was like an oh shit moment for me, as much as you know, him getting killed off. That was an oh shit moment for me too, because I was like, you really see just how insane this guy is, you know? And I think I just found it very interesting because, like, a lot of analysis of this movie perceives and goes into the mystique of the character being cool, right? And there is a cool mystique riding that motorcycle. There is this cool aspect. Look, I'm wearing the white T-shirt in honor of his, like, you know, his cool look, you know, like, because it was a really cool image, but like,
sure,
he's not a good guy. It's kind of like you shouldn't really be worshiping him, because there's a video literally that the title card said, "This guy is me," and I'm like, oh.
The thing is, he's incredibly talented.
Mm-hmm.
And you could be talented and cool, but not be a good person. And
right.
Half of Hollywood.
He's also incredibly vicious, you know. So talented, cool, vicious. He's a snake. He's like Scorpion, right? The scorpion on the jacket in the movie before this one, you know. So I do think that just makes for a really compelling character, you know.
And to go to that too, like, I think to add to that, you have a scene of him with his son, right? And Eva, and they're taking the picture, which that picture ends up being shown later on in the movie in front of the ice cream parlor. And then right afterwards, he's robbing a bank. It's like, no, don't.
Yes.
Let's remind you, people, he's a snake, he's a scorpion.
Right. But he wants to be a father. And, you know, the line about, every time he has ice cream, he's going to see my effing face. Like that. Yeah, that's, I like that line.
And it's so amazing that it comes back later in the movie with Mahershala, and, you know,
right.
It's amazing. It's a well-written movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree that he's the most interesting character. I don't know how much of that credit should go to Ryan Gosling and how much of that goes to the writing, but like I agree that his interest in his son was not selfless. It was kind of like his son was a means to an end. Like he'd been this adrenaline junkie, thrill seeker, kind of a loose cannon. He was kind of drifting around, didn't really, and then he found this opportunity to find a purpose. And it was, I thought he wanted to provide for his son more for himself than he did for the kid, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And he also didn't have a very good influence in a buddy, Ben Mendelsohn, which
I love that character.
And it's a great piece of casting too. Ben Mendelsohn's such a great actor, and like he pops up in so many random things. And like I guess this is one of the first American films he might have done. I don't know when Mississippi Grind came out, but like around the same time.
I think that came out in like the 2000s, I believe.
Okay. So like, because I know one of the first, like I've seen Animal Kingdom with him in it, the Australian film, and that has like a whole bunch of famous Australian people in it. But like, I think he's such an interesting character, and like he comes back up again in that third part of the film. Because how many people actively try to remember Ryan Gosling's character? Not a lot. And he's one of them, and that's such an interesting dynamic that like Dane DeHaan finding him and trying to fill in pieces. And I think you're going to get a very different perspective from Ben Mendelsohn's character versus Eva Mendes's character, or like the news and stuff like that, and looking back. And I think that's an interesting dynamic that he has, even though like there's one particular very intense scene between Ryan Gosling and Ben Mendelsohn. The end of the first act of this movie, I'm like, oh my. And that's the thing too, because it's like nobody was safe from Ryan Gosling's character and his impulses and his violence, honestly. And that's the thing, because like I think there's a very interesting dynamic in film between an action film and a film with violence. And like this is a film with violence.
Right.
Like there's no intention for this movie to be like an action movie. It just happens to have some like action and thrilling moments in it. But like he's a very violent person, and that channels very obviously throughout how he interacts and hurts quite a few characters in his time on screen in this film. And that carries forward. But does anybody else have anything they wanted to talk about from the first third of the film?
I'd like to. So the soundtrack, we haven't mentioned the soundtrack yet. When Ben Mendelsohn's character meets Ryan Gosling, handsome Luke, the soundtrack to me was so ominous, and the way he was looking at Ryan Gosling I felt so uncomfortable. So I was just curious if you guys got anything from that relationship,
like a homoerotic sort of thing.
Yeah, very much so. Also, his name is Robin, which is very much like Roe. I don't know. There's a lot of big question marks for me there.
I actually noticed too, there was a portion where I thought he was in drag.
I thought
he had makeup on, And a part of me is wondering if that was like a cut scene or something.
Wait, who, Ryan Gosling or Ben Mendelsohn?
Ben Mendelsohn's character, when he's saying, you know, you're gonna shoot like lightning and crash like thunder.
Mhm.
It
Or I
looked
thought it was
like
like
he
the
was wearing
oil like on
makeup.
his like hands and his face and his.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, but like he had like really big eyebrows. Like it almost looked like he was a monster a little bit. It was. I didn't like. We're mentioning like a homoeroticism. Like was he mag or something? I don't know. But like when you mention uncomfortable, like his first introduction, I'm thinking about how he's riding his motorcycle with all these pine trees, and I'm like, he keeps looking at Ben Mendelsohn. I'm like, is he gonna crash into a pine tree?
Place
That's
Beyond the
on my-
Pines is the afterlife because he ran right through one.
It'd be a much shorter movie. Right through.
All I know is Ray Liotta wanted to take Bradley Cooper a Place Beyond the Pines at one point. I'm like, don't go there.
That's right. Oh my God, that's a good point.
That's what I was thinking. At that point, I'm like, oh no, turn around.
Shit.
And for once, a movie character didn't do something really stupid.
A lot
And
of
go into
Goodfella
an
parallels
obvious
too.
trap.
Right. Oh, yeah.
But I guess maybe shifting into that second part of the film, Matt, what were some of your thoughts on like that Bradley Cooper section of the film?
Yeah, I thought so. I like the fact that he went into therapy and he said that I find it hard to like look at my son, and I feel like that, and that kind of like reverberated for like a majority of the movie, in a way where it's kind of like he doesn't really know like, who that person really is. Like he can't really connect with them, and it's interesting. He's like so fixated on like this decision that he made, which I don't even think anyone could argue to say that like he was in the wrong for shooting Ryan Gosling. He might have been wrong for like, lying about it to like internal affairs or whatever, but like he didn't do anything bad. But he was like frozen in time, like focused on that, even to the point where at the very end of the movie, he's still carrying this guy's. He's still like he has like this guy's like family photo inside of his wallet. I don't know. So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
In a sad, weird, like bad kind of way. But Bradley Cooper, I was also thinking, so I just finished this show on HBO called like We Own the City, which I mean I guess I recommend kind of sort of. It's about like police corruption. And I was
It's a
thinking about that.
spin-off of The Wire,
Yeah, I think so.
the John Bernthal.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about the French Connection, because I forgot I'd only seen this movie like once before, so like I forgot like certain aspects of it, and I was like, oh wait, it's like a cop porn thing again. This French Connection again? It's like, okay, no, never mind, it's not. It's like very much not. And then who's the guy that plays the internal affairs?
Oh, Bruce Greenwood.
That guy was fantastic. That was like, wow.
He's a great actor. He's an underappreciated actor that just plop in. Like he could show up for a scene and just do such a fantastic job with it.
Mm-hmm.
When he's like, don't F with me. Like, tell me like what happened. Like, don't F with. It was like that. And then also when he said like, I'm not going to shake your hand. I don't know. Like he actually, like that was actually like cool as hell. In a weird way. Yeah, I guess like that kind of like police brotherhood stuff, like the Ray Liotta character, and then also kind of like police brotherhood stuff in terms of just like the entire force. Like even though he's internal affairs, he still won't shake the guy's hand when he's like when Bradley Cooper is like saying like no, like no one's listening to me, not even my own chief is listening to me. Like please, like help me out. And the guy's like, yeah, like I'll help you, but like I don't respect you. I thought that was kind of interesting too. I think. I don't know. I think that if this movie was put inside of some kind of like race, class, and gender, I don't know, some kind of class, like for an assignment, I think that would be like a very interesting way to kind of see kind of like maybe kind of like the stereotypical, like not so great, like kind of like toxic aspects of like masculinity, where it's kind of like we kind of like there's some people perpetuate and kind of like just and protect certain norms that are aren't the greatest. So I thought that was also kind of interesting too. I wasn't really think about that now, like when I was watching it, but definitely like later on. Yeah.
That whole dinner scene when Ray Liotta shows up and that whole thing with how he's tearing down Rose Byrne's character. And for the most
part,
a few
things actually that were a little offensive. Like he said, there were like multiple things he said at that dinner. It's like, oh wow, okay, he's really going for it. Like, okay, he's acting. He's acting.
Ray Liotta's playing a piece of shit in this movie.
Yeah.
But like, and he does it so well. And Rose Byrne, like even in that scene, for the most part, was pushing back. But I don't think she was ever gonna win bad. Because like
she looked uncomfortable. She actually looked uncomfortable.
Yeah, because like these are some dangerous guys that I don't think you want to mess with. And I don't think they have the respect to not do something about it. And I think she could pick up on that.
When someone's aggressively manipulative like that, it's scary.
Well, and Ray Liotta's character was just plain scary in this. Like the way that he forced his way into Eva Mendes's home, that whole thing. Well, when he pulls up next to Bradley Cooper and like doing that whole like intimidation thing, and it's like, we gotta meet about this. And then you're driving, and then you're driving, and then you're driving like, well, that's a trap. And in 90% of movies, protagonists would walk right into that one. And that just made me so happy Bradley Cooper's character turned around. I'm like, good. Somebody has some sense here. Here's the thing. I love Bradley Cooper, and I've watched Bradley Cooper and stuff since he was in Alias, which was his first like big thing with J.J. Abrams because they're friends. And he does such a great job in this, and he seemed like he plays off that being haunted by something so well, and the guilt. You just feel something weighing on him this whole entire movie. He had expectations weighing on him even before this incident. His father, that actor Harris Yulin, who's like anything he pops up and he just seems like this hard-nosed, hard-edged kind of like bastard. And like there's just this weight of like, these are the expectations I have of you. And he has those expectations. And
what was his dad in the movie? A former DA?
I think he was a judge, wasn't he?
Oh yeah. You're right.
That's a lot. Like that's a lot of pressure there, and like his expectations, and like that's like I said, even before this altercation with Ryan Gosling's character, he already has all this weight on him and these expectations, and then an incident like this that could potentially, like, if the truth came out, could really screw up his career. But how they spin it makes him sound like the greatest hero of all time. And that guilt just leaning on him the whole entire film. And, in the end, he does pretty well for himself, doesn't he? As we get to the third part of the film. But, like, he doesn't feel it. He still feels that weight. Right. And you could just see that in his performance.
And he still has the vacancy with his own son.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like to me, like I think this was my favorite section of the movie because Bradley Cooper's character is the one, because we're talking about how he has expectations, he has a well-paying job that he only just started, and he has a family. So like what made this storyline my favorite of the movie is the fact that he's the character who has the most to lose.
Yeah, career, family, reputation, everything.
I wasn't sure. Sorry, I cut somebody off. I wasn't sure what kind of morality we were going by here. Like, I agree that this is a movie about good and evil. I forget who said that, but like,
I mentioned that earlier.
Joe. Like, but what is right and wrong? Because Bradley Cooper's character Avery, he does the right thing, more or less. by exposing the corruption in the Force, right? And by the way, I just wanted to say that I love Ray Liotta going from like, to me, Ray Liotta is Goodfellas. The what's the name of the character in Goodfellas?
Henry Hill.
Henry Hill.
Hank Hill, thank you.
Hank Hill.
Taking that character and putting him into the Force, like he brings the same kind of sinister gangster energy into the. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah,
but yeah, I don't know what yardstick, what morality we're going by here is all I wanted to say. Like I don't know.
It's
I don't
all
know how to
gray.
judge this character.
It's one giant gray yardstick.
It's very gray. Yeah.
That's why, like, I was thinking about that duality, whereas you have Ryan Gosling's character, who is essentially, I look at that as being a bad guy who tries to do the right thing and tries to be good. But like you mentioned, Jim, there is still a lot of, he's doing it for personal, there's a personal thing. It's personal. It's never selfless. It's self-full, you know, whereas you have Bradley Cooper, who doesn't make good choices, but he's always trying to be morally good. He's always trying to do the right thing. And to me, it's such a great dynamic then leading into the third film, where then you just have kids that are just the perfect bowl of both of those aspects, you know? And to me, that's going back to the second section. That's why I really do appreciate the second section. Like all sections really do play a role into each other for this reason, storytelling wise. You know, you have a character named Cross who's essentially carrying a cross, you know, like I wanted to have a chance to look up. Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of symbolism in this movie. One thing that the director mentioned in a commentary that I prior doing a little bit of research, when Ryan Gosling's character shows up in the church, he's all wearing white as a way of him trying to be reborn. So I think there was some intention to naming the character Cross for that reason.
Gosling in that freaking scene, man. I forgot how good he was in that scene. Oh my God. I think that's the best thing I've seen him do. That was just incredible. It was really freaking good. Holy shit.
Oh, when he's like hiding his face, like when he's crying
yes.
in the pews.
100%. That's exactly what I was about to say. Because he's crying, he could just keep facing the camera, but then he turns away. It's just brilliant.
He's a really good actor.
I want to be him.
And it goes with that.
I don't know, Alex. You want to go rob a bank with me?
It goes with that.
Ryan Gosling?
Don't
then I can understand that.
I want to go. You want to go? Oh, do I want to
go rob? Let's go rob. Apparently, like that conversation with Ben Mendelsohn, like, it's easy. Let's just rob a bank.
Exactly. That's pretty. He made it sound quite easy.
So
if I had to guess, it wasn't Gosling's choice to turn away. I feel like that was a directorial choice because, like Matt said, later on in the movie, it's "Don't look at me, don't look at me, don't look at me."
Yeah. Yeah. Holy shit. That's good. That's really good. Yeah. And then the last bank that he tries to rob, he doesn't have his glasses on. He has to, you know, he's exposed, you know? Oh, wow. Yeah. That's
also like when he's like robbing banks, did you guys, when I first saw the movie, like a long time ago, I remember like not liking his yelling voice. Like it was like for some reason, like screechy. It was like, it was like
that's just Ryan Gosling.
Like I don't know, but then in this time around, I guess I was thinking, like I guess we also kind of like the movie, so I don't know. I'm trying to kind of force it into, I don't know, in a certain way. I'm trying to look at it in a way that I want to look at it. But I guess, do you guys feel like maybe you feel like that kind of added to him being new at robbing banks and trying to like add to like the grittiness of it and stuff like that?
Right. He's a great biker.
I think so.
He's an amateur. Sorry, Vinny.
No, it's fine. I wasn't going to say anything else.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know what you were going to say. I thought I cut you off.
No. I was just agreeing with Matt with the whole aspect of him of using his like his like bank robbery voice and how it shows that he's totally new. He's totally new at this.
Right.
He doesn't know when he's like telling people like, "Hey, you get up. All right, get back down again." Like what's happened? Also, that lady doesn't know how to throw. like really badly, like at all. Like it was like 2 feet above her head, and she's like, "Oh my god, I'm so scared!" Like, come on.
The funny thing is, I did notice something in the first bank that he robs. You know, Mendelsohn told him to go after the oldest lady he could find because she's supposed to be the weakest. And he goes after like a young guy. It looks like he just got out of high school and grabs.
And he uses a gun too. He said, "Don't flash the gun," and he flashes. That's the first thing he does. He flashes.
Right. So he's obviously and he doesn't really know what he's doing.
Amateur hour
Inside the bank. It's when he's on the bike. It's when he knows what he's doing. You know. But I thought I thought maybe there was something the director was trying to say about him going after a young guy as opposed to going after the old lady. I might be looking too much into that.
Ben Mendelsohn forgot to tell him you need to use a Batman voice. Get down on the ground.
That's what I was going to say before. I was like, are they in the truck? Okay, no, do your bank robber voice again. Let's practice. It's like this.
Where is the trigger?
Where's the trigger?
It struck me too. I thought it made him sound very childish, and I do think it was a good choice. Whether I don't know whose decision that was, but it made him sound really nervous, and it made him sound very young. I thought,
because he does that in The Nice Guys all the time. He's like shrieking and squealing because like he's an idiot, and he's an adult child in that, and that's exactly what like you're getting that vibe from.
If you haven't seen Heat, or you have seen Heat, he's not Robert De Niro from Heat. Like Robert De Niro from Heat.
No.
He is a cold mother effer.
De Niro robs banks in that movie like he was never there. You know, that's the whole point, you know, and that's a don't bank robber. This is not. So that's good analysis. I think that
don't get attached to anything you can't walk away from 5 seconds.
Big man.
Oh God, if we wind up doing Heat, I'm not going to be able to stop myself. I'm going to Al Pacino out and De Niro out the whole entire time.
That's why I got so excited when I saw it was on streaming. I was like, Shane, hey, right up our alley.
Pacino.
Got a great ass.
Go
ahead. So far off it.
Insanity. Sorry, that's
Here's the thing: in the original script, Hannah was supposed to be on cocaine.
Right.
So Al Pacino played it like he was on cocaine.
Right. They never showed him doing any coke. So you're just like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy?
Somebody forgot to tell him they cut them out of the script. He's just like, no, just went for it. But we got one more section of the film, which this is when Dane DeHaan and Emery Cohen kind of take center stage. Mostly Dane DeHaan is the main character of this one. And like I even admitted, like this was the one where I felt like it lost me a little bit, like pacing wise and stuff like that. And honestly, for me personally, I think that just says how great the first 2 acts of this movie were. That this one just felt like a little bit of a step down for me. But what were some of the things that stood out to all of you?
It showed more class stuff, like when that scene when they're in like the high school cafeteria and he's talking like, oh, like where are you from? Like, oh, I'm from here. Like, where are you from? Or you sound like you're someone that's from like, Long Island. Is that what he says?
Yeah, Long Island. Yeah,
like I never been to Long Island, but it was just kind of interesting. And then I started picking up on like the other characters, like the way that he was talking. It's like doubling like down like deeper and deeper, and it's like, oh, okay, like gotcha. That's what they're trying to say. So I thought that was also kind of interesting too. Also, like the accountability, right? Like DeHaan, he has to actually get like in like the lockup. Other son opposite of him just is chills inside of the interrogation room and then gets like released. Like I don't know, it's just like that privilege thing is kind of just like it's like staring you in the face, like, oh man, like there is a difference between these 2 families. One has like access to stuff, the other one doesn't. Like but also in like a cool way. Like it wasn't like preachy. It was in your face, but it wasn't like in like a bad way. But it was pretty chill. I liked it. Yeah. I don't know.
Like for me, with those first 2/3, like with Ryan Gosling's character and Bradley Cooper's character, like like you're just like for those sections of the movie, like you're so invested in like what they're going through, what they have to lose, and just all those emotional angles. But then like I felt like, see, like 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 every obviously everything is building up to this final third where you have Gosling's character and Cooper's character finally meeting and intersecting though like those two those two threads. But I just but just with that final third, they really just came off as typical angsty teens, and like I just didn't feel like you learned as much about them as like I mean yeah, that they come from troubled families and this and that, but like I just didn't feel, I wasn't as emotionally invested in like what they were going through as compared to what their fathers were going through. And I don't know, and like I also felt like this third of the movie, it kind of felt the shortest. Like I definitely felt like there should have been a little bit more time spent with these characters because of how the whole movie builds up to them meeting. And because there wasn't that much of a build up, I don't know, I wasn't like, I wasn't really on the edge of my seat when the scene happened, when Bradley Cooper's kid breaks in to Dane into I'm sorry, when Dane DeHaan breaks in to Bradley Cooper's house and beats up his kid. Like I just didn't feel like enough happened between them to justify like what we see happen at the end of it.
I don't even know how he did that, like physically. Like that guy's like twice his size. I don't know.
Han's a scrappy one.
Yeah. Were you guys thinking that too? It's like I actually kind of wanted, because the next scene the guy had like bandages on his head. I was like, come on.
He did have a gun.
Yeah, the gun.
True, yeah.
He pistol whipped him. Didn't
right.
he?
That's what I'm thinking he did. He
were a lot stronger when they have a gun in their hand.
There was a lot of mystery to it too when you really think about it. Like that whole scene where Bradley Cooper is pleading to him, and you're wondering what did happen to his son. Did he kill his son? That's like I mentioned earlier before about the decisions these characters are making, and like, you really don't know if Dane DeHaan actually did kill. I did personally believe he killed AJ, but to see that he, taught him a lesson, I guess, just he roughed him up a little bit. And the fact that he didn't kill Bradley Cooper shows what he's trying to do with his father, even what Bradley Cooper wasn't able to do, in a sense. And to me, I know we're saying it's hopeless and that characters aren't really changing. I'd like to think him leaving Beyond the Pines, going to that place Beyond the Pines, gives him hope.
You know what? I will say, like, despite the final third being underwhelming, I did like that little parallel between the second third and the last third with Bradley Cooper being led to the woods.
Yeah.
And in that second third, he drives away, nothing happens, but then he does end up getting brought there. But then, but he's ultimately shown mercy.
It's like you're dealing with the consequences, like we're saying, accountability. Like he's finally actually dealing with the consequences of his actions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like how he performs that. I don't think he's cowering when he cries. I think it's the guilt.
He's coming to terms with what he's done and what has led up to it.
But I love the way, I don't know why, I love the way he throws his jacket at him, just because it's like, he's angry. I mean, there's still anger in there. He's not throwing the jacket at him to try to he's throwing the jacket at him because he's fed up with the burden. That's just how I kind of look. I like his performance.
And not only that, he thinks his son is dead. He doesn't know what happened to his son.
That's the only time that he shows, like, at least for me, and I'm definitely like notorious for forgetting stuff, but like that's like the only time where I think that he really showed like true caring for his son. Because that interrogation scene, like I feel like that's actually like one of my favorite Bradley Cooper things that I've ever seen him do. When he's like taking his son by the face and he's like, "You don't talk to that boy again." That was like hard to watch. And he said like, "Say yes." Like, I want you to look at me and say yes. That, like, I don't know, like that when he at the end when he's in the forest like on his knees and he says like, "What happened to like my boy?" or whatever. In my head, I was kind of like, "Okay, like, where the hell have you been? Like, do you care now?" Like,
well, you know, it's fun. It's
again,
funny.
I might be projecting, guys. So you know, like,
it's funny you say how like that scene at the end is where he really shows a caring for his son for the first time, because going back to the interrogation scene that you brought up, and he's like grabbing him by the throat and saying, do you understand me? Say yes. Do you understand me? You could see that as like he's not really caring for his son. He wants him to shape up just so the father doesn't look bad, like while he's like as he's campaigning for was it attorney general. I think he's.
I took it the wrong way. I took it in a sense that he was caring more for Jason than he was caring for his own son. That's why he told him not deal with this kid. I mean, that and the guilt.
I don't think
that's actually a much more interesting way of looking at it, because he feels guilty about leaving this kid without a father, so he wants to make sure that he's safe.
Oh,
that
absolutely.
He's safe in some regard.
Like, he still holds on to that picture. Like, that said that, I didn't full out cry during this movie, but seeing that, like, that just like a punch. Yeah. Like, I was texting Jim last night watching this movie. I was like, this movie, man, twists and turns, yo. Like, even
Oh, go ahead, Joe.
I was gonna say, like, even the transitions to the different parts in this movie were just so crazy, because I kept pausing the movie scene. I was like, I didn't know that this was a 3-act story. I thought it was going to be one continuous thing, but it wasn't one continuous thing with Ryan Gosling's character. Then it wasn't one continuous thing. It takes place 15 years later. I was like, stop doing this to me, movie.
Yeah.
It's twists and turns, man.
I think it's interesting that, like, basically Bradley Cooper gets taken out to Miller's Crossing in the third act of this movie, when he's going to be punished for what he feels like he did wrong. Earlier, he doesn't follow Ray Liotta because they're trying to punish him for upending corruption. He did something right.
Right.
He is in that position in the third act of the film because he's coming to grips with what he actually did wrong.
Right.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I like that he was spared in the end, because like what we were talking about earlier, he's trying to do the right thing by exposing the corruption. He was trying to do the right thing by doing his job, when he pulls the trigger earlier in the movie. So like, I really, it's kind of a trope to like have somebody in the sights of your gun and then let him go. I feel like this made a lot more sense than most of those moments.
Well, and I feel like it's important for Dane DeHaan's character's arc to not turn to violence and impulsion like his father did and be a different person. And I'll be the first to admit, I think Dane DeHaan's a very talented actor who gets miscast a lot. Like, there's certain...
was Chronicle his break considered his breakout?
Oh, he was great in that.
Yeah,
because he was really miscast in Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man 2. He was really miscast in Valerian, like trying to be a Han Solo type, and I'm like, that doesn't work for you. And like A Cure
Yeah.
for Wellness, I never really bought him in that film either. And it sucks because he really is a talented actor. And like this kind of role, I think is really interesting for him. And I
Sure.
think he really excelled with it. And I wish that he'd wind up in more roles, more like this.
A good next role would have been like a cooler, slightly more mature, still tortured. Got to have some of that for your character, right?
Yeah,
Tortured is
and
definitely
he just
his.
gives off that vibe that
Yeah,
he would
tortured.
be a tortured soul.
Yeah.
That is his vibe. It's the Tetsuo character. He's in Chronicle. That's his character. That's the character he should be playing up more.
Chronicle?
I agree. There was that,
Mhm.
in Chronicle where, for a while he just kept getting miscast, and it's like they tried to see him as like this big thing.
Mhm.
Like even me watching this movie, I'm like, oh, this was made in this time period. This was when Dane DeHaan was like Hollywood was going for a Dane DeHaan kick.
Well, and ever since Valerian, he's done almost nothing but television shows.
Yeah.
He did that he played that serial killer, the stranger in that Quibi series. Matt knows what I'm talking about. Quibi. And then he's been doing HBO and Apple TV Plus series. But like he hasn't gotten leading roles,
Well,
and
you know-
it looks
know
like
what?
he's an Oppenheimer along with Apple Hollywood.
He would make a really good Ghostface.
Oh. Wait,
You know what? If he shows up in Scream 6, Welcome to New York City, wouldn't be shocked.
Oh.
I thought you were talking about the rapper Ghostface Killer.
Ghostface from Scream.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah, Dane
Twitter would love
DeHaan
that.
has
Twitter would love
Ghostface Killer written all over him. Like he's got that Billy Loomis look.
Yep.
Down perfect.
Ghostface Killer. Hey, could you imagine DeHaan doing this? Like, come on. Like, come on.
He would not get Staten Island's vote.
So I want to bring out my guitar now, if that's okay.
Yeah.
I was working in Western New York at the time when I first saw this in theaters, and Jim can relate because Jim went to school with me in that area. And although this doesn't take place in Western New York, it takes place in Schenectady. The backdrop always felt very similar to me, and the people in the movie felt really similar to me. And at the time, I was working at a community college in a counselor type of role, working with like single parents, working class people, people who lived in trailers, and people who had really they had tough lives, but they loved their kids and they worked really hard and they were going to school at the same time, and it all just kind of inspired me. And of course the song is very different from the movie, but part of what inspired it was that last shot. They're in the hills, and he's riding a bike through the hills. And I don't know if you noticed at home, it's really hard to see on the TV, but in theaters, it was very obvious to me. There's an American flag, like kind of left center, left center, in like, there's like a building, and then you see the hills, and he's riding his bike off into the hills. There's a little American flag, and that had to have been intentional, or just really great serendipity. There happened to be an American flag there, because I do think, like Matt has talked about, there is a social class story going on here, and I think it really is. Despite all the cinematic stuff with the violence and the bank robberies and stuff, I do think there's a very real, like raw story being told, about generations, and so it just kind of all inspired me. So the song is called Inherit. And so I'll play it for you.
children of these rolling hills, lift off from the dirt, float across all the world. No easy way for where. Here is the child we bear, fathers and mothers finding the cradle. Here we raise the flag. Is it the sun's destiny to follow footsteps beyond the trees? Forsaken love falls to its knees. All unanswered questions. No easy way for where. Here is the child we bear, mothers and fathers finding the cradle. Here we raise the flag. All inherit the earth. Your child is smiling aside all your days' work. All inherit the earth. Your child is riding behind through the rolling hills.
Nice.
Alex,
How
I
many
was
years you been
expecting a
playing,
third
dude?
part. I thought it was gonna be a song in 3 parts as well. I was expecting another part.
There was a brief moment when you changed tune and I unmuted myself ready to clap. I was like, oh, it's still going. And I put
know.
myself back on mute.
I know. I played it at an open mic recently, and everybody thought it was over. Like at that part, I actually expected to hear somebody clap because it does kind of feel like an ending. But yeah,
That's like the movie too. Like it
And then it jumps
transitions to something
15
else.
years.
yeah.
And then it goes into like a keyboard.
Right there you go. I need to. In fact,
It's a
piano,
keytar.
A keytar. There we go.
Yeah.
I like the one lyric you had in there going beyond the trees. I was like, that's a good.
Of course.
There you
Of
go.
course.
I like it.
Yes.
We're
Then,
celebrating our
Beyond the
2-year
Trees,
anniversary with a song.
Forsaken love falls
There we
to
go.
its knees. You know, Bradley Cooper getting on his knees, at the end of the movie. That kind of found its way in there. You know. But yeah, it was really just like more about the empathy and appreciation for. I'm not a parent. I don't have a child. I don't know if I ever will. But at the time, I was kind of in a position where I had to really have empathy for these people who who had kids, some of which had kids when they were like 15 or 16 years old. I'm still really good friends with someone who was in that position. And now she's, in her early 30s, and her kid is probably about to graduate high school. And, it's awesome. It's just like, it was just really, really cool. And just seeing this movie, this movie's goes in those violent, directions, for its own reasons, but it just felt really relatable to me. And I think that going back to the Ryan Gosling character is that I can only imagine, as I'm sure you guys as men could probably, imagine someday, when you find out like that someone is yours, something kind of takes over, that it would call it a primal thing, call it a caring thing, I don't know what it is. I'm sure something takes over. And there's plenty of stories about guys who leave. And I heard plenty of those stories. I'm sure I know some of you guys work with people in a similar capacity. You hear a story about guys who just leave, right? Or guys who leave and they come back, they leave and they come back. And so the father thing is just so resonant in America and American storytelling, and maybe the world, and so I think that regardless, no matter how hard you try to like not have that pull toward your father or your mother, or what your roots are, where you're from, you're going to get pulled toward it, whether it's good or bad or violent, or you're going to get pulled in some sort of direction. And I've always felt like the Gosling character in this, it was less about whether he was good or bad. It was more about like, this kid has to find out, and riding his bike through the hills is his way of exploring that. And I had a buddy I was in a band with who, totally different. So, but the guys I was in a band with were so freaking different from me. Jersey and Western New York, very different cultures, and that's what they used to do. They used to ride around on their motorcycles and just waste gas for no reason. And I used to go, why do you do this? What's the point? It's like, Alex, this is Western New York. We don't have anything else to do. Like, okay, all right.
Why do you breathe? You can't explain breathing.
You could just sing a bunch of Frankie Valli songs like the rest of us Jersey boys.
There you go. Yeah. Or
that's 100% what we do.
Or of course, Dancing in the Dark, some Bruce Springsteen.
Oh.
Great addition into this movie, by the way.
So, you all got a free concert on top of an in-depth talk about Place Beyond the Pines. I got one last question for everybody before we tease our next episode and wrap things up. Who we taking to Applebee's?
AJ. I thought about this for so long. I'm bringing AJ because despite the kid being a douchebag, he knows how to party. He knows how to put a party.
I have to say real quick, I know you guys aren't like, some of you guys aren't as high on that last act, but I have to say about his character in particular, I went to high school with so many guys who acted just like that. And where does it come from? Because they're not from Long Island. Nope. Is it a macho thing? Did they hear guys talk like that on, MTV? Like, where does that come from?
It's that MTV. That MTV is poisoning the youth.
The devil. MTV is the devil.
MTV is the devil.
It's like grew up in the same neighborhood I did. It's like little hellions getting kids rebellious. The parents still listening to Elvis. It's a whole generation.
Did you just quote Eminem?
I did, yes.
Okay.
That's where they come from.
It's that white T-shirt. It's the influence of the white T-shirt.
Yeah. I'm just sitting over like, Dio, can you hear me?
Oh, my Lord.
But no, it's so funny you say that because I went to high school with a guy just like that, and he knew how to throw a good party. I'm doing a name drop.
Joe knows from experience.
There. He was there for
Wow, Joe was a party animal in high school. Look at him socializing.
There you go.
Unlike me.
My answer if is oddly, you know what? I could say I can go the Eva Mendes route for obvious reasons, but I have said Ben Mendelsohn's character, man. I would know, man. We'd have beers, and I don't know, we might end up robbing the restaurant together. I don't know.
You get to play with his dog. He's got a nice dog. Like, he just seems like a wholesome dude.
I'm going the Bradley Cooper route. I'm taking Bradley Cooper to Applebee's. I think he could use it.
He needs a beer. Just get him a beer.
Yeah.
I think he could use it. He's had a rough year. He's had a rough 15.
He's had a rough 15.
How about Mahershala? I'd get
Yeah, I know, right?
That
Like,
poor guy.
I want to make
I would
Star
treat
Wars
him to
references with him.
Yeah.
I treat him to dinner for all the shit he put up with in this movie.
You would
Like, even that whole scene in the diner when
yeah.
Ryan Gosling is telling Eva Mendes like how he's gonna like take care of his son, live with me, we're gonna go run away. He's like, what about Kofi? Hey, he can stay. Like,
That's okay. We can all hang out with Kofi instead. And
Yeah.
we're better people.
and he likes Star Wars.
Yeah. So, our next episode, I'm not going to let you know what it is, but let's just say it's inconceivable. I'm going to leave it at that. But from Joe, from Alec, to
Sorry.
Vinny, to Matt, who's getting a good laugh in, to Jim,
Yeah.
to Shane, thank you as always for tuning in and supporting the Development Hell podcast.